Hello, my dear BL friends. This is a review for the BL series Melody of Secrets with the main actors Book and Force. Warning, this is spoiler heavy, and this is, as they say, an honest review. Like, I'm not sugarcoating anything. I'm not hating. It's my honest opinion about this. Take it or leave it. So here goes nothing. Like, seriously. The more fitting title for this series should have been Cacophony of Nonsense. Good gods, I thought I'd seen the lowest point of logic with Dare You to Death, aka Bore You to Death, with the cops played by Jong and Dunk, who are all lovey-dovey and totally fail as cops while people being gruesomely killed around them for utterly lame, ridiculous reasons. My opinion. At least there was a possibility of a clarifying outside perspective to bring enlightenment to what happens in the form of the two cops who were absolute failures of cops. I don't know why they kept their jobs after the series. But back to Melody of Secrets. Here in Melody of Secrets, that was completely missing. This third perspective, which may have brought clarity to it, I don't know. Under crime, mystery or not, I've never experienced such nonsensical confusion as here. I'm going to talk about Book and Force in their names now, because it really didn't help that so many characters with partly similar names were involved in the plot. So, when I'm talking about Book and Force, I'm talking about their characters. So, after the disjointed, totally out of context intro, we find Book, who lost his memories at the age of 17. And the series picks up 10 years later, 27, meaning we are dealing with a main character who for the past 10 years has known his mother, his grandmother, and absolutely everyone solely based on the assertion that they are who they are. Nothing in Book's behavior suggests this. No, he just lets 10 years pass as if loss of memory were nothing more than an annoying mosquito bite. Then Force shows up. Why then? We don't know. And immediately they fall in love in semi-NC scenes. Why? We don't know. Apparently because of it's the memory that somehow boils deep. Which we are absolutely misled about. And this is even before the deciding moment, which happens, I think, in episode 2, that Book's diary is mailed to him by an unknown person. Nobody cares to research who sent him this diary or wonders why now 10 years later, but plot has to go on. So it is mailed to him, his diary. He recognizes his own handwriting and learned about all the happy years he spent with Force as a couple. And this is when it gets funny. If he lost his memory at age 17, but had a romantic relationship with Force's character from age 17 onward, because don't tell me they had it before, awkward. Why does he even need a diary from the time after the age of 17, where he had this memory loss, to remember anything that is from the last 10 years during which he had actually no memory loss? Question mark? And that's just for example. So he spends 10 years satisfied with not recalling anything. For 10 years he doesn't encounter a single person who happened just by random chance to know him. A guy in a restaurant who served him time and again. Friends, classmates. And he doesn't even noticed how strange that is. Apart from his family, no one else he seems to exist who knew him from before. Or how strange it is that the family apparently makes no effort whatsoever to reactivate his memory, which would be the normal thing for a caring mother and grandmother to be. On the contrary, they're all quite keen to take every measure and length for him to not remember. And that is where it became quite clear to me where this was probably headed, and I was right in the end. And Dariel Perrault's little grey hairs were in the right. But before I get to that, what follows is a widely edited string of snippets jumping from character to character, from event to event, place to place. Sometimes even closings change and then they are backwards to closings from before, making it even more puzzling what the heck was going on, and the time order was all over the place for me. To a place where I felt that the series is more reminiscent of a roller coaster ride that you are making drunk. The author had presumably written the novel backwards, making the conclusion first, and it becomes clear that now the events have to be crammed in and the series progresses. This is demonstrated. The author had completely bitten off more than he could chew here. There are so many motives, plot lines, and they completely overwhelm the director, the writer, and unfortunately also the actors. Inspector Dow's subplot alone is just confusing, and I never really understand her motive until the end, and even then, nor her motive behind the main mystery. And that is, spoiler warning, Book isn't at all who he thinks he is. The person he thinks he is died 17 years ago. And now his so-called mother and grandmother, who are not his mother and grandmother, hypnotize a complete stranger, which is the character Book is actually, to believe that he is that dead person. Why? We don't know. Purpose? Zero. I don't understand. I don't get. No reason. Nada. Zilch. It never really becomes clear what the point of such an action is supposed to be. But it gets even worse because Force, now entering the story, is also neither the person Book ever knew as the real person that he is, nor as the fake person who died, nor were there ever a couple, and yet they jump into bed immediately. Why? Why? To Book, from any perspective, he's a stranger who merely comes up in a diary, and that is that the diary appears a day later, and he already goes into semi-NC scenes with Force's character, like if he had a lost memory of a romantic relation, which we know in the end he never had. So this jumping into bed before the diary makes, because of feeling resurfacing, made absolutely no sense whatsoever. To Book, he's a stranger who merely comes up in a diary, who appears a few days later, and as we learn in the end, he has no memories of feelings, perhaps instinctive ones, because Force never knew Book at any point. And why is Force even playing along? We don't know. And here comes the bombshell. Book's fake persona, which she assumed through hypnosis, was in love with Force's brother, who for utterly preposterous reason constantly introduced himself by Force's name, the name that Force is acting. So the died person was in love with the older brother of Force, who constantly called himself to the dead person that Book thinks he is by the name of Force. And Force has no questions about this. Nobody knows. There is just no sense in why these two people should have spontaneous feeling of intimacy of such a strength, like just jump into bed, like, oh, we were lovers, yes, somehow, which the diary a day later confirms. But here we go. Because love and NC must happen. It's a BL series, you know, that's the reason. By that point, at the very latest, a significant number of my brain cells had died. I leave it at that because there's a whole legion of illogical plot holes that are more reminiscent of a crumbling suburban road than a story. As for the acting, unfortunately, after Only Friends, my impression is confirmed that, please forgive me if you're a fan of it, it's not personally, Force simply isn't a good actor. I mean, maybe he's a great actor in a series which I've never seen. I've not seen all series in which he was, and I don't think I will. But or maybe it's just like he's directed from the direction. I don't know either. But Force appears so far, having only friends, and now this appears to be not a very good actor. Whether it's distress or sexual arousal, anger or determination, somehow all gets lost in the uniform facial expression of tired eyes and raised eyebrows. As for Book, I'd say from Only Friends, I know he shows he can act. I call it a somewhat middle of the road in terms of quality. They make it, admittedly, for a nice ship, but nothing that really blows me away. Example, when Inspector Dow acts with more expression, emotionally, facially, than Force, one of the two main characters in their scenes together, it has to be clear something is just not right. So when the whole mess finally comes to light, I slap myself really strong at the forehead, having witnessed what is arguably the most idiotic collection of plots that I can recall, thereby dethroning Dare You to Death in my book, a series which I previously dubbed the dumbest BL of all times. The fact that Book and Force decided in the end to start over as a couple, using the real person as known to them now, might seem as a consolation for BL fans, but honestly, I found it rather grotesque. Because Force and Book exist as a ship, so they must come together. It has to end in this way. And unfortunately, there's nothing new of a problem in BL series. So the love and the NC scenes between Force and Book are the only thing that actually carry some value, which they act decently, if I may say so, if you pull a mask of the immovable face of Force, that is. It was a punishment to watch, an insult to logic, and hence I award this series solely for the nice romance scenes which were good, a 2 out of 10. And now, my friends, I need a really strong drink.